Hey, good afternoon. Welcome into the Boulevard Brewing Company post-game drink here. Mizzou a 59-28 winner over Southeast Missouri State. I am Gabe DeArmond. We're going to talk about it with you guys for the next however long you guys want to talk about it for. Missouri goes to 2-1 on the season, comes back from a 35-28 loss at Kentucky last week before a 11 a.m. game, noon local time, I guess, at that point. Game at Boston College next weekend. Again, 59-28, the final score. Let's get this out of the way right now. There's two ways you can look at this game. One, Missouri was ahead 52-7 early in the fourth quarter. The starters hadn't played largely since halftime. They played three quarterbacks. Five guys actually accounted for the first touchdown of their career, and pretty much everybody who was on scholarship got on the field. Or SEMO ended up running for 294 yards and scoring 21 points in the fourth quarter. What you focus on is kind of up to you. I'm pretty sure I know what's going to be focused on here. I tend to put a lot more stock in the idea that, hey, Missouri was up 52-7 and did exactly what it should have done against an FCS team that was outmanned at every position for 50 minutes of the game. In the last 10 minutes, they don't mean nothing, but they don't mean very much. That's at least my opinion. So we're going to run through just some of the numbers and take a look at a few different things for you guys, and then we'll go through your comments, open up the phone lines, and however long we're here for, we're here. Generally, games like this tend to be a little bit less active and inspire a little bit less activity because it was SEMO and it's a 3-hour and 15-minute game, and it's over at 2:30, and a lot of people might have other plans today. But if you guys are here hanging out with us, we will do this for as long as you guys feel like it. So Tyler Beatty, again, Missouri's first drive, I think, was 6 plays. Tyler Beatty touched it on 5 of them. He scored a touchdown. He caught a touchdown on his second drive. He had another touchdown run late in the first half, ended up accounting for 95 total yards on 11 touches, and sat the entire second half of the game out. Ideal. Connor Bazelak, 21 for 30, 346, 3 touchdowns. He also played a half. Those numbers probably would have looked even a little bit better, but there was a series in the second quarter where I think that I don't know if he had hit his elbow or his hand or something on a helmet, but you could pretty clearly see Bazelak shaking his hand, and he was in a little bit of pain, and it probably couldn't feel the ball or grip the ball all that well. On that series, he overthrew 2 wide open receivers just straight over their heads, and that made the numbers actually look probably not as good as they could have looked, even though they still looked awfully good. That next number is actually off because I didn't anticipate SEMO to run for a 75-yard touchdown and give the ball back to Missouri. Mizzou ended up with 675 yards of total offense. Tyler Macon, the first touchdown pass of his career. Michael Cox, the first touchdown run of his career. And then Mookie Cooper, Boo Smith, J.J. Hester, and Chance Looper. I'm sorry, Mookie Cooper didn't get in the end zone. It was J.J. Hester, Boo Smith, and Chance Looper all scored touchdowns. Mookie Cooper and Dominic Lovett both had their biggest days. Certainly 15 different skill position players touched the football. Again, Mizzou led 52-7 early in the fourth quarter, and we will get to some of your comments. I want to take a look at kind of the side-by-side stats here. Again, SEMO ends up with 373. I'm going to go back actually and see if I can find what the number was at the end of the third quarter. Give me just a minute. Okay, it was 52-7 at the end of 3 quarters. Missouri had gained 587 total yards, and SEMO had gained 156. So SEMO had 217 yards in the fourth quarter. At the end of the third quarter, SEMO had run for 109 yards. They ran for 185 in the fourth quarter. Does that matter to you? I don't know. Not that much. I mean, the guys that were on the field when SEMO did that are not going to be on the field very much, to be quite honest. That they may not see the field again this season, if we're being honest. A few more expanded stats for you guys, just kind of some individual stuff. And look, there were a lot of different guys that touched the ball, so not all of Missouri's receivers can get on here. But Beatty, 9 for 81. Michael Cox, 4 for 77. Elijah Young, 12 for 46. B.J. Harris gets in the game, 5 for 17. Lovett, Cooper, and Downing all had a carry. And then Kiki Chisholm, 5 catches for 50. Lovett, 4 for a team-high 79. Cooper, 4 for 64, including the 46-yarder. J.J. Hester, 2 for 79 and a touchdown. The 65-yarder on the slant from Tyler Macon that he did most of the work. And then Chance Looper, 2 for 60 and a touchdown, was a little swing pass that he took down the sideline from Connor Bazelak in the first half. So 59-28, and again, there are two different ways to look at this, and I have a feeling we are going to have both of those ways coming up here. So let's take a look at some of the comments before we open up the phone lines. Adam thinking 6-6 is the ceiling after that game. If you came into this game thinking 6-6 was the ceiling, I understand. I don't know what game on Missouri's schedule you thought they could win before today that you now no longer think they can win. I mean, is 6-6 possible? Absolutely, it's possible. Is it the ceiling? Well, they're 2-1. So BC, I guess you're counting that as an automatic loss with the backup quarterback. BC was beaten up on Temple today, so I guess that's a loss. I guess Tennessee's a win. South Carolina, Vandy, and Arkansas. That's the best you can do, or maybe BC's a win and Arkansas's a loss. I don't know which of those games you're counting as an automatic loss because none of them are an automatic loss. If you need any more proof that week to week simply doesn't matter in college football, look at the Kentucky Wildcats, right? They ran for 1 billion yards against Missouri last week. Physically dominated Missouri last week. Won 35-28 in a game that wasn't that close. Today, they needed 14 points in the fourth quarter to beat Chattanooga 28-23. Chattanooga. The Wildcats' final numbers in that game, Chris Rodriguez, 13 carries for 46 yards. The dude that was just destroying Missouri last week, 13 carries for 46 yards. Will Levis, 23 of 35 for 254, 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. He was fine. Again, Kentucky was fired up last week. They were not as fired up this week. I think they will be better next week when they return to SEC play against South Carolina. Missouri came out and did what you would want Missouri to do in the first 3 quarters of this game. It was 52-7, and they had a yardage edge of about 3-1, a little more than 3-1. And then they put it on cruise control because it was 52-7. And is it ideal? No, it doesn't mean nothing, but I really don't think it means a whole lot.
Antonio Soprano.
Hang on, I got ESPN likes to play loud noises in the background there, so I'm going to have to turn that off. That's my fault. T-Rise says, Beatty's the man, QB room is deep, wide receivers are looking pretty good. I'm going to agree with the first thing. Tyler Beatty, clearly the man. QB room is deep. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I learned anything about Brady Cook and Tyler Macon today. I mean, Cook, looked good, and he is now 10 for 11 in his career, but he hasn't played against a good team in a tough situation. Tyler Macon, good of him to come in and get his first experience. He went 3 for 4 for 69 yards. The slant was a nice throw to J.J. Hester, but Hester did most of the work, and again, it's at that point 45-7 against a not very good FCS team. So how much stock do I put in it? That's not saying Tyler Macon and Brady Cook aren't good, but I think saying the QB room is deep is I don't think I would go that far quite yet. It potentially could be deep. I'll say that. Does the fourth quarter show anything about the depth of the team? 100%. They don't have very much on defense. Look, I mean, again, some of the guys I saw out there, and I'm not singling these guys out as they were the ones who made bad plays, because honestly, by that point in the game, I'm not watching that closely. But Stacy Brown and Mason Pack were the safeties on SEMO's third touchdown. Jatorian Hansford committed a penalty that led to that touchdown and actually wiped out an interception by Allie Green. I mean, these are guys that if you're in the fourth quarter game against Tennessee or A&M or Arkansas, those aren't the guys on the field. I mean, they won't be the guys on the field in a close game, in any situation, not any of them. So, yes, it shows that Missouri doesn't have a ton of depth, and that if some guys get hurt and these are the guys that have to play, that's probably not a great situation. But is it reason to panic? Again, it was 52-7 with 575 to 156 total yardage entering the fourth quarter. So, Elijah Young averaged 3.8 per carry on 12 attempts. Yeah, not ideal. I thought he looked good on a couple. But, numbers you would like to see those look better. I like Young, but, you'll need to see more out of him if he's the number 2 guy. Bryce says our fourth-string defense isn't a reason to lose all hope. Not great, but the defense was fine for 3 quarters. And I would agree. I wouldn't say the defense was great through 3 quarters, but it was fine. I don't think there's any question about that. Nothing to take away, says Spencer, other than that there is 0 defensive depth outside of the 2 deep. Offense did what it was supposed to do. Yeah, that's pretty much, I think, where everybody sits at this point. Okay, so we'll continue to go through, but I do want to go ahead and offer up the chance to start the phone calls if you guys want to do that. We'll open up the phone lines. And look, I have to say before we do this a couple of things. First of all, if you are going to call in, please turn the volume down on your computer or whatever you're listening to. Second of all, when I answer the phone, I'm going to call out your area code. If I don't call out your number, just wait. I'll get to you. Sometimes we have 4 or 5 people. We don't need anger that it's not your turn or, talking to your girlfriend in the background. Like, I may be able to find a way to put you on mute, but I'm not sure. So just assume you're not on mute and assume that when I call out your phone number, then it's time to talk. It's not really time to talk until then because we're going to get our wires crossed and there's going to be a bunch of people that are kind of tripping all over each other. So, again, the phone lines are open at 5. If anybody that's listening and not watching, I should say, the number is 573-234-4935. That's 573-234-4935. If you've got anything you want to talk about, Mizzou and SEMO, if you want to look ahead to BC, whatever. Again, I understand this is a little bit different game. We tend to not put quite as much energy and stock into this one. So, not sure what the phone lines are going to look like today, but they are open. And until we get some calls, certainly I'll still kind of continue to roll through some of the comments. Ed says all positive. Offensive skill players look great. I would say mostly positive. Again, the fourth quarter doesn't mean nothing, but it doesn't override the fact that it was 52-7 and that Missouri did exactly what you would want it to do. It handled this game exactly the way it should handle it as far as the guys that are going to be on the field in important situations going forward. Because the guys that struggled aren't going to be on this field in important situations going forward. And if you want to come back with, but what if, 2 other guys get hurt? Yes, if 2 other guys get hurt, there's going to be a third stringer on the field. And Missouri is going to be in trouble if the third-string defense is on the field, as most teams would be. It is not a reason to panic. So overall, I agree with Ed, much more positive than negative. I won't go so far as to say it's all positive, but if I'm Eli Drinkwitz, I'm focusing more on the positive than I am on the negative. The raw numbers are going to look worse than they are. SEMO ran for 294 yards, and obviously that looks really bad and actually hurts Missouri's Missouri's per game average, but again, it was 52-7. They ran for 185 of those 294 in the fourth quarter. And the other thing is, like, that's a team that they threw for like 70 yards. So they knew they couldn't come back no matter what the situation was. So they were just running the football. So we got our first call. We're going to go to the phone lines in the 513 area code. Who am I talking to?
Hey, Gabe. This is Eric from Cincinnati.
What's up, Eric? How you doing, man?
Doing all right. How are you? Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I think, like everybody, I'm a little concerned about our lack on depth on D.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, where do, drinks increased the quality of recruiting in the last few years, but where do we get the players that can compete while those guys are coming up through the years? Do we just have to hit the portal hard over the next 2 years to try to keep the seniors and juniors up, or how do you approach that?
Yeah, honestly, it's going to be a little bit of a process. It's going to take some time. I mean, like Arden Walker and Johnny Walker at defensive end, those might be players. Travion Ford might be a player, but probably not right away this year. Like they're not ready to start this year, right? I think I didn't really notice Trajan Jeffcoat a lot. That's a little bit disappointing. And now SEMO didn't throw a lot, so the pass rush I'm not sure what to think of. Isaiah McGuire is a guy that I think you have some hope for, but the linebackers obviously are a question mark. And again, like you said, you're just going to kind of have to wait a minute before you can really put guys out there on defense that you feel super comfortable with. I know that's not the answer people want to hear, but yeah, you can supplement it in the transfer portal. But like Missouri did that this year, and outside of a Caleb Evan, like Blaze Aldridge is starting, but I don't think anybody would say he's played super great. And Allie Green appears to be kind of just pretty much a depth guy at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
All right. Thanks, man.
Yep. Thanks for the call, Eric. I appreciate it, man. And all right, we're going to go now to the 940 area code. You with me?
Yes.
Who am I talking to?
This is Ed.
Hey, Ed. How you doing, man?
Good. One comment about the offense, and especially Brady Cook. I think he looked great.
Yep.
And I think one reason why he only played the one series is Bazelak keeps getting banged up a little bit, and I don't think Coach wanted to. I think he wanted to kind of protect him. I think that's one reason why he gave Macon a lot of all the rest of the series.
Yeah, you could be right. That was something I kind of thought during the game. I feel like if Brady Cook's your backup quarterback, he should get more than one series, but maybe he saw everything he needed to see out of Brady Cook there and said, hey, you're good. Now I want to see the freshman that I haven't actually seen facing live bullets and see what he looks like. Thought Cook might get one more series, but I guess I'm not going to argue. And it still kind of amazes me. Missouri fans just tend to gloss over him and not acknowledge him, and he did. I don't know what else he can do other than what he did, 4 for 4, 25 yards and a touchdown on his drive.
Yeah, and I thought he was very accurate with where he was placing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
One other comment on Boston College. I don't know whether you realize their quarterback, who they thought would probably go about the second round of the draft, he got hurt last game.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And they have a pretty good backup. I think he might be a transfer, but I think they have a pretty good backup. But they don't have their really, really outstanding quarterback. So that should help a little bit.
Yeah, Phil Jerkovich is the guy that got hurt, and he's out now. So I'm looking at the score right now. BC beat Temple 28-3 today. BC's quarterback was, it appears, 6 of 14 for 57 yards and a touchdown. So that was a really weird game. I'm not sure what went on. I mean, unless the stats feed I am looking at is really messed up, BC threw for 57 yards and ran for about 180. So they had like 240 yards in total offense and won 28-3. So, maybe reason to hope. But again, I'm not sure quarterback is the position if you're about to face Missouri, I'm not sure quarterback's the position I'm concerned with. I'm just more concerned if I have 3 guys I can hand the ball off to and run them straight up the middle and see what happens, to be quite honest with you.
Right, but at least we're not potentially facing a very, very good quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's got to be a plus. Okay, thank you. Great show. Take care.
All right, thanks, Ed. Appreciate the call, man. And so that's the box score, the live box score on ESPN was messed up on the BC game most of the day, so I hadn't seen stats. But yeah, their quarterback, his name is Grossel, 6 for 14, 57 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Quarterback rating of 86.3. So it'll be interesting to see what BC looks like when Missouri goes up there. I think that is a winnable game. My guess is that's around a pick 'em, because BC does have the quarterback out, and because Missouri did put up a number today. Mizzou's certainly going to have the edge in at quarterback. They'll probably have the edge at running back, where Tyler Beatty just continues to do kind of ridiculous things. But that's not a gimme by any stretch of the imagination. All right, so let's keep going. Justin, who joined us on the pregame show and was concerned he might not make it till the end of the game due to his Jägermeister intake, is here. So I'm pleased to see that. Justin, thank you for being here. Brad Filbert says, I think Young dances a little too much. Reminds me a little bit of Kendall Lawrence when he was young. That's possible. I'd have to go back and kind of look a little bit closer, but you always have to wonder, were there holes there that a guy missed, or were there just no holes there when Young was in the game? Or is the other possibility that the holes were similar to what Tyler Beatty had, and Tyler Beatty is just better at making something out of nothing? So I'm not sure, because, again, I haven't gone back and watched every carry. You would like Elijah Young to be a little bit more productive than he was if he's your number 2 back. One thing I was also going to say about the quarterbacks, and one reason that I don't want to put too much on this. I mean, guys, I'm not sure Connor Bazelak sees receivers that open when they're playing 7-on-7 in the backyard at Kiki Chisholm's apartment, to be honest. I mean, there were dudes just running not even close to any SEMO defender. And again, give Missouri's quarterbacks credit. Don't get me wrong, especially for Brady Cook and Tyler Macon, who haven't played either very much or at all, going a combined 7 for 8 for 94 yards and 2 touchdowns, even against air, is impressive. So I don't want to take away from what they did. I just also don't really want to put too much into it, because if there was one area where it was clear SEMO was just completely overmatched, it was in the defensive secondary in the passing game. I mean, they couldn't cover anybody on Missouri. Again, they had, Missouri had 6 receivers with at least 46 yards. They had 12 different guys catch a pass. They averaged over 10 yards an attempt, well over 10 yards an attempt, actually. Pretty close to 12 yards an attempt, which is just a ridiculous number. So pass defense, and I'll have to look and see if SEMO had a sack at all. I don't think, no. SEMO did not have a sack. I don't really remember a Missouri quarterback being touched. So if there was an area that SEMO was severely overmanned in, even more than the rest, it was pass defense, which is why I want to be a little bit careful, right, about the quarterbacks and giving that too much credit. Okay, so Michael says, as ugly as it was at times, we can sleep soundly knowing that Luther Burden saw the Macon-Hester play and got an idea of what is waiting for him at Mizzou. And look, I understand all the excitement is about Luther Burden at this point, but if I'm watching that game, it's not the offensive recruits I'm super concerned about. It's how fast can we get guys in here on defense, especially in the front 6, to help out. And again, That is almost exclusively the backups, second and mostly third-teamers, so you don't want to focus on it. But I understand the excitement about Luther Burden, but also Missouri just put up 59 points and 440 passing yards, and would it be good to have him? Absolutely, no question. Let's see. Stewart is not concerned about the third or fourth team defense, and neither should you. So there you go. He has saved you all the time and worry. Let's see. T-Rise says Blaze is slow. I didn't notice it wasn't as glaring today, I think, with some of the guys that played that the defense was struggling. I mean, it was, again, the first 3 quarters or so, the defense looked okay. Missouri played so many guys on defense that the leading tackler was Jelani Williams, who had 5. I think they were all in the fourth quarter, honestly. Blaze Aldridge had 2 tackles. If there's a concern maybe, Missouri only had 4 tackles for loss. Isaiah McGuire had one very early. Petway, Travion Ford, and then Johnny Walker had a sack too. So, 4 tackles for loss, 1 quarterback hurry that came from Johnny Walker. You'd like to see maybe a little more havoc wreaked up front. But again, SEMO had 109 yards rushing through 3 quarters, or it feels like we're picking nits there a little bit. The linebackers weren't great in this game probably, but I didn't notice them, and that's an improvement over the first couple of weeks. Pretty clear that a lot of those true freshmen will not be ready for a year or two. And look, this is what we've talked about for the first 2 weeks of the season, or at least I've talked about. Some people maybe don't want to hear it as much, but even Dominic Lovett looked better today than he has the first 2 weeks. Same with Mookie Cooper. Now, I think some of that has to do with competition. But your hope is that in Games 7 and 8 that those guys are looking pretty good. And those are the extremely talented, highly ranked freshmen on this team. I mean, when you're getting down more to B.J. Harris that got his feet wet today, Arden Walker that got his feet wet, those are guys that you just work in a little bit, whether they play more than 4 games. I don't think many of them will. Then you hope maybe by the end of the season that they are more comfortable. And then really in year 2 is when you're hoping for a bigger contribution from a lot of these guys. I mean, that's the way recruiting is. If you are recruiting to fix a team that year, then your program's in trouble. You are more recruiting for 2 and 3 years down the road in every class. So these guys that are freshmen now, the impact is going to be more in 2022 and 2023. And I've said a few times, I don't think we can have a realistic conversation about the SEC East until 2023. Quick question for you guys. Speaking of freshmen, I didn't notice him really today. Did Mekhi Wingo play? I'm curious if anybody noticed him or if there was something going on. And I'm not going to pretend to sit and stare at the defensive tackles. I do know Darius Robinson and Akil Byers were the starters, which indicates to me that Kobe Whiteside has fallen out of favor a little bit, based on what has happened recently. But curious if any of you guys noticed that whether Mekhi Wingo was on the field or not. Dan's asking, how could Drinkwitz have missed so badly on the transfers? He literally could target anyone he wanted. Well, I mean, look, I think Caleb Evans has been good, right? No issues there. Allie Green seemed to me like a guy Missouri wasn't going to take until all of a sudden they were just like, we got a spot, we'll take him. I could be wrong, but that was my read on it. Like, he didn't have an offer for a long time. Really, if you're talking about missing on the transfers, I guess you're talking probably about Blaze Aldridge. Now, were there other transfer linebackers that they recruited? Probably. But for whatever reason, they couldn't get them. I mean, again, recruiting it's a two-way street, right? If you want to bring a guy in, he also has to want to come. You can't just pick, hey, we want you, come transfer here. That guy's got to want to transfer. So they thought Blaze Aldridge was the guy to target, and the best guy that they could get. Again, I'm not going to say that I know that Blaze Aldridge was number 1 on their linebacker board. I have no idea. He may have been number 14, and they missed on the first 13. But he was the guy they got. I think the extra year, the COVID year, kind of it helped and hurt Missouri. It helped them in that it gave them more bodies on the defensive line this year, but it hurt them in that it was almost like, well, hey, we have these guys coming back, but again, those guys were just guys last year. Chris Turner has been here 5 years, and he's a guy. Jatorian Hansford, he's not a super senior, but, he's not really going to play meaningful snaps. It appears more and more that Kobe Whiteside maybe was a product of playing next to Jordan Elliott as much as anything. Even Akil Byers, he's fine. He's a guy, And Markel Utzi and Trey Williams, who transferred away, they were guys. Missouri needed difference makers. And with, again, it was a two-way street. Players had to say, I want to come back, but also the coaches had to say, we want to have you back. So that was a two-way street, and I'd say they made some mistakes. So let's go to the phone line, 309. Who am I talking to?
Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Not bad. Who is this?
This is David Wiley. I go by Dick Wiley.
Okay, what's
Big
up?
Mizzou fan.
How you doing, man? Good to hear from you.
I think our defense is a little soft. I think we're going to lose Boston College by 14.
You think? Boston.
I think we will. I'm going to the game next week. Yeah.
Okay, Boston College today only had 240 yards of total offense against Temple,
They're a solid team, though. I'm looking
yeah.
at their stats. A lot better team Mizzou is on offense.
Backup quarterback coming in. I don't know. Mizzou had 570 yards today. I think it's a toss-up game. They could definitely lose, but I don't think it's a sure thing.
570 yards against SEMO.
I agree.
I hope Mizzou wins against Boston College, but I won't be surprised if we lose.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a toss-up game, man. It could go either way. So you're going to BC, huh?
Yeah. I think BC wins. If I was a bet man, I'd bet BC.
So you got big plans for the trip?
No, we're staying in Watertown with two of my college buddies up there.
All right.
A couple miles away from the school. It'll be fun.
Perfect, man. Well, enjoy the trip, maybe.
For the game, and it'll be a fun time.
All right. Well, enjoy the trip. Maybe give us a call after the game. Give us a report from up there next week.
I will definitely give you a call after the game.
All right. I appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
All right. I'll see you, man.
All right. Have a good one. That was, I believe, Dick Wiley. So, hey, we'll get an eyewitness account from Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts next week. And look, I'm not going to be surprised if Missouri gets beat next week. I think the line is going to be about a pick 'em. BC is, I think they're. Shoot, let me see if I can figure out they're now 3-0. I don't know if they've beaten anybody good, to be quite honest with you. They beat Temple today, which counts for nothing. I think they might have played Holy Cross or somebody one week. I don't think they've had a great season, but they're a solid team. They're Kentucky-like. They're about that. They're capable, and again, Kentucky last week looked like top 20 good against Missouri, right? They barely beat Chattanooga today. So what Missouri did today doesn't mean very much for next Saturday. What Boston College did today doesn't mean very much for next Saturday. Could go any number of ways. Hey, want to while we have just a minute, and do invite you guys to call in anytime you want, 573-234-4935. But want to mention the Boulevard Brewing Company is the sponsor of this show. They did it all year last year, did it after basketball games for us last year too, and are back on board this year for the post-game drink. Boulevard Brewing Company, obviously you guys know about the many wonderful selections they have as far as beer, but they also have the Fling cocktails, and now they've got Quark out. That's kind of like their seltzer product this year. You can go check that out, pick that up at pretty much any grocery store in mid-Missouri. I've seen it around Hy-Vee and Schnucks, and you can get it anywhere. I'm betting you could get some over at Macadoodles here in town, which is another one of our partners. But also, if you just kind of like me, you'd rather have a beer, you're not into the seltzer, hey, they've got all sorts of great stuff. Space Camper, Tank 7, you get some Radler. It's starting to get into fall. Maybe some of the the Browns or some of the darker beer, you can give that a shot. Again, you can get Boulevard all over, really at this point, almost all over the country. I mean, there was a time that, they were only in like 6 or 7 states, but you can get it just about anywhere now. So thanks to Boulevard Brewing Company for bringing this show to you guys and making it possible every week. And thanks to you guys for hopping on. And while you're here, do me a favor, hit the like button on the show. Subscribe to the channel while you're here. And well, we've got just a minute. Take one more look at kind of these side-by-side stats and what everybody's talking about. Again, SEMO 373 yards. They ran for 294. At the end of the third quarter, SEMO had 156 yards of offense and 109 rushing. Means they had 185 rushing yards and 217 total yards in the final 15 minutes of this game, when Missouri's defense was largely, Jelani Williams, Jamie Petway, Chad Bailey, Chris Sheeran, Stacy Brown, guys that just aren't going to be out there for the meaningful snaps. I see DJ Jackson, a freshman, he apparently played today. He's got 2 tackles here. Dalen Carnell, a freshman, played. Daniel Robledo hasn't played all season. He played. Andrew Serrano, a walk-on defensive lineman, he played. I mean, I'm telling you guys, if you were on the roster, you pretty much played. Travion Ford was out there late. So are you concerned that group gave up 217 yards in the fourth quarter? I mean, look, there's a reason that those guys weren't playing the first 3 quarters and they didn't play the first 2 weeks. It doesn't mean they're not going to be good players down the road. It means they're not ready right now. And before the game, on the pregame show, we had talked about, so what do you do? Do you play the starters a long time to get them reps, or do you maybe try to toss some guys out there as far as backups and see what you've got? And I thought, toss some guys out there at backup and see what you've got. Well, now Eli Drinkwitz knows what he has. He has guys that, like, we keep getting questions, well, how come this guy isn't playing? How come this guy isn't playing? And we keep saying, the coaches are playing the guys they think are the best and have earned it in practice. That was shown today. There's not guys on this roster that suddenly are just going to make the defense better. The guys that they're playing are the best defenders they have. That was shown by the game today, because through 3 quarters, the guys they've been playing held SEMO down. They brought in some of these other guys, and they did not hold SEMO down. So I think that actually kind of shows the idea that, hey, maybe we have some guys we don't know about. I think maybe right now you don't, if we're being real honest about it. So there's the number again, 573-234-4935. And let me see if I can roll through some more of your all's comments. Let's see. Justin Ferguson says he doesn't remember seeing Mekhi Wingo, and he didn't have a tackle. I know that. Peter Leopold saying didn't see the second half. How did SEMO get 28? I mean, they just ran the ball against Missouri's backup defense. Bama has taken a 7-0 lead on Florida. This is not a surprise. I would bet Bama every single week. All right. We're going to jump back to the phone line now. We got somebody out of the 314 area code. Who's on the phone?
Hey, yeah, it's Tyler here. Just had a question for you. Don't really have too many takeaways from the game on specific kind of plays or performances given kind of opponent. But the one thing I did think I liked was, coming off a tough loss last week, right on the road at Kentucky. Obviously, we've seen teams lose, but you see a lot of teams just come flat in this game. And I thought at least especially kind of the first quarter, the team looked pretty focused, came out, obviously, jumped out to kind of a big lead. And, the one thing I think that I like the best actually about Drinkwitz from just a coaching standpoint is it seems like he does a good job of getting his guys ready to play kind of week in and week out and kind of focused on, doing their things and being bought in. So just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that kind of from a high level and just, a team kind of at least being ready to play, which we don't talk about, I don't think, enough, or sometimes that's a big kind of skill set, I think, from coaches.
Totally agree. Actually, the one thing you want to see out of this game is what's the first quarter look like? Because if the first quarter, if you give SEMO hope, maybe you let them hang around. There was no hope. There was touchdown, 3 and out, touchdown, 3 and out, touchdown. It was 21-0. SEMO had run like 7 plays. The game was over. Everybody knew Missouri knew the game was over. SEMO knew the game was over. So you judge them more on the first 10 minutes, really, than you do even the last 50. And, again, those are your starters. Those are your guys. Like Tyler Beatty and, Devin Nicholson, Martez Manuel, Connor Bazelak, these are the guys that are going to be the reasons you win or lose against Tennessee and A&M and Arkansas and those teams. The guys that were giving up 217 yards in the fourth quarter aren't going to see the field in those games. So I think that there's a little too much energy given to worrying about that. I agree with you on the first quarter, though.
Yeah, I agree as well, too. I did like, I thought on the receiver side, there was a couple of, guys that made some plays today, which, of course, the competition. But, it was good just to see Lovett and Cooper, I think kind of continue to get their feet wet. So I think, that's something, too, that could help them next week and in some of the bigger games. So,
totally agree.
I'll hang up. Thanks. Have a good one.
All right, thanks, Tyler. And I really like Chance Looper every time I get a chance to see the kid play. He looks good, man. He looks like an SEC receiver. We're going to stay here on the line, 815 area code. Who's on the phone?
What's up, Dave? It's Ron.
Hey, Ron. How you doing, man? What's on your mind?
Yeah, no, I think for the most part, when you have the first teamers just kind of go out and handle their business and dominate, which is what they should have done. That's all you can ask for. Like, you don't read almost anything into it, but I think the fact that they went out there, they looked crisp on offense. Bazelak, at least in the first quarter, I don't know what his deal was in the second. I think he was missing some throws.
I think he hit his hand or his arm on a helmet.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think so. I agree with the last caller. They got a lot of skilled players who were involved. Lovett, Beatty, of course, Cooper a little bit. I just think it sets the table pretty nicely for next week when, I'm still a little afraid of the Boston College game, but the fact that they are playing a backup quarterback themselves, it makes it a little more winnable. And wins are good, even though this team's got a long way to go. So I'm just curious to your. You can't really pull any big picture thoughts out of this game, but do you think just for setting the table for next week, do you think it sets the table nicely for the rest of the season?
I think here's an underrated part of this week as it impacts next week, and that is Missouri is going into next week with most of their players basically having a half week off this week. I mean, Connor Bazelak didn't play in the second half. Tyler Beatty had 9 carries, and didn't play in the second half. Even most of the defense didn't play in the second half, most of the starters. So I think that's an underrated thing. They are going in playing against a team that probably played guys a little bit longer because they played a 28-3 game at Temple. And Missouri's guys basically played a half game. I bet if we go and look at it, nobody on Missouri played more than about 40 snaps in this game. And that's a big deal. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And just one other thing that stood out to me. Do we have a backup quarterback controversy on campus? I think people are always looking ahead, looking at those recruiting rankings, thinking it's going to go somewhere from Bazelak to Tyler Macon to Sam Horn. But Brady Cook, man, I know it's SEMO, but it looks like he has some good zip on his passes, and I think he's God forbid if Bazelak goes down for a little bit. I think he could move the offense pretty well. What do you think about that?
I think he's the guy based on the fact that he played first, right? And I don't think that can be ignored. When the number 2 quarterback came in, it was Brady Cook. Also, Like, I understand Macon had the 60-yard touchdown or 65-yard touchdown. I mean, it was a good throw, but 55 of that was J.J. Hester just being faster than the defensive backs that were around him. It wasn't this highlight reel throw. It was a nice quick slant. Macon had an incompletion. Cook didn't. I think Macon obviously has a chance, but because he's local, I mean, so is Cook, but because he's from East St. Louis and because he had more stars and was more highly rated, I think people just jump straight to Tyler Macon. I think Brady Cook's the number 2 quarterback this year. I don't think it's a wide gap. I'm sure Missouri hopes to never really have to answer that question, but based on the fact he played first, I think he's the backup.
Gotcha. Well, plenty to look forward to next week. A lot more to learn about this team going up against Boston College versus Blake SEMO. But we'll talk to you next weekend. Thanks.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Ron. We got somebody on the line from 314 area code. You still with us?
Dave?
Yeah.
Hey, man, it's Craig. How you doing?
Hey, Craig, what's going on? How are you, man?
I'm good, dude. I'm good. Hey, compared to last weekend, this post-game drink is, like, a lot more serious.
It's a little bit calm, right?
A little bit crazy.
Yeah. I think.
What do you prefer? Do you prefer the more wacky or the more serious?
Well, I like the activity. So I like it to be busy. Last week was a little bit crazy, just trying to keep up with it. But I like it more when you guys talk more than me talking. So if we can find a happy medium, that's good. I feel like 11 a.m. games are worse for the post game because I feel like even though maybe my audience isn't complete grown-ups, at least most of them probably aren't hammered at 2:45 in the afternoon, right?
Well, I don't know. Some probably are.
Some,
I saw some quotes about Jägermeister or something.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I don't want to make a blanket statement. There are some who, you can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning. So,
We had a nice little afternoon here. Some friends invited us over. They made some fajitas, which were delicious. And we left the kids at home, so we didn't bring them. Daughter is a junior in high school. She has a test this week coming up, so she's studying for her test. Very important. But wanted to ask you about a couple things. So if you think this game's played in Cape Girardeau, what do you think the score might have turned out? You think it's any different? We still blow them out?
Yeah, I don't think it's any different. I don't think the location had anything to do with it. I don't honestly know what SEMO Stadium is like or how many it can hold, but I have a feeling it would not necessarily be an intimidating road atmosphere. Today was just all about the talent gap.
It's not a bad stadium. I almost went to school there. I was actually in line to register for classes with my parents. We kind of walked through the campus, selected all my classes, and literally one spot away, I was about ready to turn in my form for all my classes. I stepped out of line and said, I'm not going to SEMO, I'm going to Mizzou.
Okay.
And that sealed it. I ended up going to Mizzou, and SEMO's not a bad school. A lot of hills on campus there, but I don't know. But I think the turning point of that game, if you could say there was one, was when we were up. It sounds silly, but we were up 42-0. They actually had a third and long. They converted and they scored, and we just answered right back with that long touchdown to make and to Hester. I thought that was kind of a key play.
Yeah, I have a hard time going with the turning point being at 42-7. I think the turning point was more SEMO deferred and Missouri scored in 6 plays and then forced a 3 and out. And I think the game was, if it wasn't over then, it was over like 2 possessions later. So, but nice throw by Macon, nice run by Hester. So.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a decent throw. It was like 10 yards in the air. The announcers thought it was like the end-all be-all, but it was like a slant.
Yeah, it was a solid throw. Solid throw. So. Well, Craig,
I guess the one thing is the punt team didn't get on the field at all today. Which I don't know if that matters or not, but they didn't. Did they punt even once?
I think they might have had a punt. Hang on, I can look it up. I feel like I saw Grant McInnes's name at one point.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
Doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter. Cool.
Yeah, Missouri punted once for 56 yards. So thanks for the call, Craig. I appreciate it, man.
Good to see you, buddy.
All right.
Later.
Bye. Okay, we're going to stay in the 314 area code. You still with me?
Yeah, I think I'm here. Is it me?
Yeah. Who am I talking to?
This is Nick.
Hey, Nick. How are you, man?
Good. Hey, man, you were talking about SEMO Stadium. Thought it was kind of interesting. Their first game of the year, they actually had to close down their south grandstand because it was condemned, I believe, for structural issues. But that's neither here nor there. One of my questions was kind of related to the transfer portal, not so much related to Mizzou, but it seems like we've seen a lot of parity this year in college football. Do you think the transfer portal has helped that a little bit?
That's a decent thought. We need to get, I think, probably a little further into the season. I mean, I do like that we are, 2 weeks into the season, and Clemson and Ohio State have already lost games, and Oklahoma's been pushed a couple times. I mean, so that makes it look maybe reasonable that there will be more parity. I'm not sure if we're there yet, but we're at least maybe taking a step in that direction. The portal is not the fact that guys didn't have to sit out, so there were more transfers and probably guys left some of these more Power 5 programs where they aren't going to play and maybe went to places where they're finding more playing time. That could be a factor. I mean, we'll probably have to get to the end of the year and have somebody that's far more ambitious than I am do like more of a study on it and take a look, but it's not a bad thought.
Do you think that the transfer rules will change going forward as far as, leaving it where you don't have to sit out a year? Or do you think we'll go back to kind of the way it was?
No, I think we will. I think there will be the one-time waiver. Like, you can transfer one time without sitting out. You're not going to be able to transfer again without sitting out. Last year was different because of COVID and everything, but I think you'll be able to transfer one time without sitting out a year. And whether that will remain in place, in conference or not, I'm not sure. But I think we'll stick with that because I think we've gone too far down the road of, like, siding with the players to take that off the table now.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. You do great work.
All right, Nick, appreciate the call, man. Thank you for being a part of it. Let's go down to the 573 area code. Who am I talking to?
Oh, hey, Gabe. How you doing? This is Gary.
What's up, Gary? How's things, man?
Yeah, okay. Well, Gabe, I don't have a shirt on right now, but
okay.
I want to talk about Mike Cox. How could we not talk about Mike Cox? We haven't talked about Mike Cox yet.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it hasn't been mentioned.
Mike Kelly was going on about, he was talking about Ernie Blackwell, how he looked like Ernie Blackwell. I'm like, what? I couldn't find the game because, well, I don't know what happened to it. But
it was on SEC+.
It sounded like Mike Cox looked pretty good.
Yeah, 4 carries for 77 yards, 55-yard touchtouchdown. Had a nice day. Had a nice day.
Is that our third guy now? Is that number 3?
I think
he earned it.
I
didn't see Dawson Downing out there.
Yeah, Downing had 1 carry. He gained no yards. B.J. Harris had 5 carries for 17. But again, he's a freshman who you probably want to keep the red shirt. I think Michael Cox did at least enough to be the third guy and get some more looks. He's a big dude, man, and he's not slow.
Yeah, that's what Mike was saying. They said Ernie was about 6'3". I don't remember him being that big, but
Ernest Blackwell.
They said Mike Cox was probably 6'2", 6'3", maybe.
Yeah, that's probably right. I think Cox is like 6'2", 230, but like Ernest Blackwell is maybe one of the most physically gifted football players I've ever seen here. So I'm not going to put. I'm not going to put Mike Cox.
That before. I've heard everybody say that about him. Yeah.
Yeah. He's not Justin Smith, and he's probably not Denario Alexander. But outside of those guys, he's in the conversation. So I'm not going to put Michael Cox in that discussion quite yet. But he's a big dude, and he's not slow.
Him. We like him.
Yes. He is Power Mizzou's, Power Mizzou kind of made that guy. I feel like this show kind of created the legend.
Well, yeah, I was part of that.
Well, I certainly appreciate it. I'm glad everybody pointed out to me that he actually existed, which this time a year ago I did not think he did. So
very exciting. All right, Gabriel, we'll see you later.
All right, sounds good, Gary. Thanks for the call, man. Any call that starts out with "I'm not wearing a shirt right now" it's always intriguing. You never know quite what you're going to get. Sometimes you might get Craig's life story on the show. You never know what's going to go on. So Let's see. Let's take one more look at kind of your big storylines today. The headlines for Missouri were these: Tyler Beatty, another big day; Connor Bazelak, a big day. 675 yards of total offense, whole bunch of firsts. I know Joel Lorenzi is gonna write some about some of the firsts in this game. 5 guys, I think, had their first touchdown. A few guys had their first catch. Johnny Walker had his first sack. A lot of firsts in this game. So Mizzou again was up 52-7 through 3, ended up winning 59-28, and that's the story, guys. I mean, I think all fairly, again, as I started out saying, there are 2 ways you can look at this. You could focus on the last quarter. You can focus on, oh my God, our third stringers can't stop SEMO running the football. Or you can focus on the first 3 quarters and say, like, I forget who it was that pointed out, they deserve credit for coming out and being ready to go right off the bat, right? Coming out ready to roll. And, hey, let's get this going strong at the beginning. They did that. And, I thought impressive first 2.5 to 3 quarters, and then they put it on cruise control, and it is human nature. We have somebody asking for the number to call in, so I'm going to put it back on the screen. Give me just a minute. There it is. 573-234-4935. If you do want to call in and keep this show going, that is certainly fine. We've made it an hour in here, which is kind of, I always like to go at least an hour after the game. Never sure what it's going to look like in a game like this that honestly was over at about noon. They went ahead and played for another couple hours. I thought Dave Steckel did a nice job on the color commentary. Good to hear Steck again, and obviously he knows plenty of football. He knows Mizzou, so that was kind of I kind of like that clearly on like the Ocho on one of the D-list games for the SEC. Having a guy that at least knows the team, knows the roster, knows the state, knows the area. I thought was a good experience for Mizzou fans. So we'll give you a couple more minutes if you do want to call in. 573-234-4935. Again, Mizzou and Boston College. It's going to be an 11 a.m. game. I think it's on ESPNU next week. I know it's not on SEC Network Plus, so it will be easier for a lot of people to find that might have struggled to do so today. But we'll talk about that BC game throughout this week, and obviously we'll do the pregame and everything next Saturday. But I said at the beginning of the year, these first 4 games, you wanted to come out 3-1. Said I didn't think it was likely that Missouri was going to sweep Kentucky and Boston College, but what you want is to avoid getting swept by Kentucky and Boston College. So obviously to do that, Missouri's got to go up and beat BC. So we'll see if they can do that. If they can do that, they're going to come back here 3-1, and I think everybody will feel pretty good about that. I could be wrong. Maybe some of you will be disappointed, but I think most people will feel pretty good about it. If you can come back with 3-1, Connor Bazelak and Tyler Beatty playing well, leading the way, and hopefully the defense finds a little bit of footing. Again, I said today, I don't care if they hold SEMO to 12 yards and no points. I'm not going to come out of this saying the defense is fixed. They didn't do that, and I'm not saying that. But we'll see what they look like at BC against, a representative Power 5 offense next week. Floyd the Barber wants to know, how good do you feel about Luther picking up the Mizzou hat next month? I mean, I've said, I haven't said it on this show, I've said it on our site. If I had to handicap it today, I think he would pick Missouri. It is still 4.5 weeks away. He has a visit to Georgia between now and then. Things happen. I mean, things can always change. If I had to forecast it today, I think he's going to go to Missouri. That doesn't mean in 4.5 weeks the same will necessarily be true, but we'll see where it goes. And I feel like, guys, that's kind of a good place to shut this one down. Luther Burden, sees Missouri win 59-28. Tigers 2-1 as they go to BC next week. I want to thank you guys for watching again. Hey, we know that these shows the shows after games like this are a little bit less active, and shows after 11 a.m. games sometimes are a little bit less active. But do want to thank you guys, those of you who are here with us. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button on your way out. I'm going to upload this as a podcast. If you're listening on the podcast and you have made it this far, please review the podcasts and give us good reviews, 5 stars preferably. I've heard that's the highest. So thanks once again to Boulevard Brewing Company. Check out all their beers. Check out the Fling cocktails. Pick up some of the Quark Seltzer at your grocery store. Not going to be home for a couple weeks, but October 2nd, they're back home against Tennessee. You're going to need some tailgating stuff. Pick up some Boulevard products for your tailgate. Before that game against Tennessee, we will know we'll know kick time on Monday. So appreciate you guys being part of it. Joel and Mitchell and myself will have plenty of continuing coverage on PowerMizzou.com this afternoon and all day tomorrow, and we'll talk to you guys later.